right, everyone, welcome back. This is going to be lesson 94, starting on page 488 in your books. So let's make sure we have our pencils, paper, and our books. And we are just going to jump right in. So today's lesson is about writing fractions and decimals as percents. So at the end of the lesson, you're going to be able to change any fraction, decimal number, or mixed number to a percent by multiplying that number by 100%. So it says it's part 2 because we've already sort of started some of this material. We've been changing numbers to percents already, and now it's going to be any fraction, decimal, or mixed number as a percent. So let's start on page 488. We're going to look at the mental math first, and you'll see letter A says 50 times 70. So just like we've been doing our last few lessons, if you need some time to work, please just pause the video, work out that mental math, do your best to keep everything in your head for these examples. And if not, sure, work them out and just make sure that you're getting these right answers. And okay, let's get started. Letter A, 50 times 70. 50 times 70. And the answer here is 3,500 or 3,500. Letter B, 572 plus 150. 572 plus 150. All right, the answer to that one is 722. 722. Letter C, 50% of 80. What is 50% of 80? The answer to that one is 40. Letter D, $10 minus $6.36. $10 minus $6.36. The answer to this one, $3.64. $3.64. So good job on these so far. Letter E, 100 times 2 hundredths, or 100 times 0.02. The answer to that is 2. So remember, I'm going to just do a little overview of this one. Whenever you're multiplying by a multiple of 10, remember when we're multiplying, we move the decimal to the right for however many zeros we had. So we would, oops, I wrote this decimal wrong, so let's fix that. So in this example, it was 100 times 200. So we move our decimal over twice and we would get 2. So just remember that when you're multiplying by 100, 1,000, 10,000, you can move your decimal to the right for however many zeros you see. Okay, letter F is 640 divided by 20. 640 divided by 20. The answer to that one is 32. Letter G, if R equals 6, what does 9R equal? If R equals 6, what does 9R equal? And the answer is 54. So remember, when we just have numbers right next to each other, especially if it's a number and a variable, it implies multiplication. So we would do 9 times 6, and that's how we get 54. And then letter H is a mental calculation, so I'm just going to read through this, so make sure you're following along. We have 4 times 5 plus 1 divided by 3 times 8 minus 1 divided by 5 times 4 minus 2 divided by 2. And the answer to that one, I'm just going to go ahead and say it because it doesn't, is 21. All right, the answer to the mental calculation was 21. Okay, good job on those. So we're going to jump into our lesson now, writing fractions and decimals as percents. So make sure you're following along. We're on page 488. So I wrote this out here to change a number to a percent, and you'll see this at the bottom of page 488. You can just multiply the number by 100%. Multiply the number by 100%. So they walk through a few different examples, and we ourselves are going to do a couple different examples because we've learned to change numbers to percents in different ways. So one way was, we said, let's make it an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. What did we do to get from 5 to 100? We multiplied by 20. So let's do that to our numerator. 60 over 100 can be written as 60%. That's one of the first ways we learned to change a fraction to a fraction or decimal to a percent. They also give us the example 4 tenths. That's the same thing as writing 40 hundredths. Remember, after our numbers in a decimal, we can add zeros without changing the value. 40 hundredths can be written like this, which is 40%. But now we're going to change things up, and we are simply going to multiply whatever number they give us by 100, and in that way find out what percent it is. So let's start with example 1. Change 1/3 to a percent. Change 1/3 to a percent. So we're going to follow this process. We're just going to multiply by 100%. I'm going to make that a fraction by giving it a denominator of 1. And remember, when you're multiplying fractions, you just multiply across your numerators and across your denominators. So now we have 100% over 3. So to make this just a percent, instead of writing 100 over 3, we're going to do the division that's implied. We're going to do 100% divided by 3. So how many times does 3 go into 10? 3 times. All right, I'm not going to belabor this too much. How many times does 3 go into 10? 3 times. With 1 left over. So what we're going to do here is we're going to write our remainder as a fraction and say it's 33 1/3%. If we decided to write that as like a decimal percent, we would have gotten a repeating 3. So it's really more of a whole answer in this case to write it as a fraction. So 33 1/3%. Next, let's write 1.2 as a percent. So to change a number to a percent, multiply the number by 100%. So here we have 1.2 times 100%. And like I just went over in the mental math, when we're multiplying by powers of 10, we can just move our decimal over 2 places. So if we did that here, we would get 120%. 120%. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. If you don't recall how to multiply by powers of 10 by moving the decimal, you could have done 100 times 1 point. Oh, yikes. You could have done 100 times 1.2. 1. And then remember, we have 1 decimal place, so we would have 1 decimal place, and you would have gotten 120% that way as well. But make sure that you know this method. When you're multiplying by a power of 10, you can just move the decimal to the right for however many zeros there are. And let me erase this first one. If you guys ever need to go back and write down some notes, please do so. We're going to move a little quickly just because you have that opportunity to pause and go back and rewatch the things that were confusing. Okay, example 3 is a good one, and I'm going to show you, the book shows you 2 different ways to do this, but I think we're just going to stick to one way. We're going to change 2 1/4 as a percent. So we're going to do the same method, multiply by 100%. And how were we multiplying mixed numbers before? Hopefully you recall that we are supposed to change that mixed number to an improper fraction. So we are going to do the same exact thing here. So change 2 1/4 to an improper fraction. Remember, you multiply here and you add here. So 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. So that turns into 9/4 times 100%. Another thing that you can recall when we're multiplying fractions is you can cancel and reduce within numerators and denominators. So 4 and 100, remember, have common multiples. So change 4 to 1, change 100 to 25. That'll make this a little bit easier. You could wait until the end to reduce if you want, but if you do it beforehand, it's a lot easier. So now do 9 times 25. 9 times 25 is 225. So it means we have 225%. So 2 1/4 is 225%. All right, we have 2 more examples to work through. So now we're on page 490. Page 490. Let's look at example 4. Write 2 1/6 as a percent. So first thing we're going to do is change this into an improper fraction. What is 2 1/6 as an improper fraction? It's going to be 13 over 6. Remember, we get that, we say 6 times 2 plus 1 is 13 over 6, multiplied by 100%. All right. So we get 1300% over 6. Like I said, you could have reduced first if you wanted to. So you can either do that, or you can go here and start your long division. So you would say 1300 divided by 6. And we, once again, will write our remainder as a fraction. So take a minute to work out that long division. 1300 divided by 6. And hopefully you got 216 2/3%. 216 2/3%. All right, so that one was just the same as the previous example. Change it to a mixed number and then multiply. And then our last one is sort of a word problem. So we're going to have to read through this and make sure you're reading carefully. We want to make sure that we're answering the question that's being asked, not necessarily the question that we think might be asked. So 20 of the 30 students on the bus were girls. 20 of the 30 students on the bus were girls. What percent of the students on the bus were girls? So first of all, let's write that out as a fraction. 20 of the 30. So we're just going to say 20/30ths. Now it's asking us to change 20/30ths to a percent. So make sure you're listening, because what if it had asked what percent of the students on the bus were boys? It would have changed what we were about to do, but it says how many of them are girls, and they tell us 20 of the 30 were girls. So 20 over 30 times 100%. Let's reduce first. 30 and 100. 30 can reduce to 3. 100 can reduce to 10. Can we reduce any more? No, so let's multiply across. 20 times 10 is 200. Over 3 times 1 is 3. So we have 200% divided by 3. So do that division. 200 divided by 3. Okay, take a moment and work that out, and you'll get 66 2/3%. You may have said to yourself, why don't we reduce 20 over 30 first? And that's a great idea. You could say 2/3 times 100%. If you wanted to take that route, that's fine. When you multiply across, you would have still gotten 200% over 3, and you would have still gotten 66 2/3%. Okay, so great job. Now you'll look at the practice set. There's a lot of problems here. The first section should be really simple. Change each decimal number to a percent by multiplying by 100%. So this is on page 490. We're going to do all of them, and I've broken them down into the 2 parts. So the first part, change decimals to a percent. Remember, I'll do the first one with you just to help you recall. So it says 5/10, change it to a percent. Remember, for all of these, we're going to be multiplying by 100%. What do we do when we multiply by 100%? We move this decimal over 2 places. So that would give us 50%. Okay, letter B, I'll do that one with you as well, and then I'll give you a moment to work these out. 6/100 times 100%. Because we're multiplying by 100 and that has 2 zeros, we're going to move our decimal to the right 2 places. So that would give us 6%. So really this first section is pretty simple. Just make sure you're moving your decimal over 2 places and writing your answer as a percent. So please take a few minutes, or however long you need, to fill those out, and then I'll go over the answers with you. Okay? So hopefully you paused the video and took some time to work those out. We're going to jump right into the answers. Letter C is 12.5%. 12.5%. Letter D is 45%. Letter E is 130%. 130%. Hopefully you saw moving that decimal over you'd have to fill that space in with a 0, 130%. Letter F is 2.5%. 2 5/10, however you like to say that. I might rewrite that, that looks especially bad. All right. Letter G, 9%. 9%. Letter H is 125%. And letter I is 62.5%. 62.5%. So great job on that. Let's move on to the second section, and that will be changing some fractions and mixed numbers to percents. So change these fractions and mixed numbers to a percent, once again by multiplying by 100%. So just quick review, reduce your fractions if you can, and change your mixed numbers into improper fractions before you multiply. So take a second, work on those. Pause the video. I'm going to get a drink of water. Okay, you probably heard me gulp that water. Pretty gross, that's okay. Letter J is 66 2/3%. So that's just like that one we did in example 5. Letter K, 16 2/3%. Letter L, 12.5%. Letter M, 125%. Letter N, 280%. Letter O is 133 1/3%. Letter P is referring to that rectangle to the side. It says what percent of the rectangle is shaded. So hopefully you noticed that 5 of the 6 parts were shaded in, so you had to change 5/6 to a percent, and you would have gotten 83 1/3% of that was shaded. Letter Q, what percent of a yard is a foot? What percent of a yard is a foot? So remember, there are 3 feet in a yard. So you needed to change 1/3 to a percent, and you would get 33 1/3%. So hopefully those all made sense. If you have questions, leave them in the comments on this lesson. This again is lesson 94. And for your homework, I believe I assigned all of the problems. So numbers 1 through 30, and that starts on page 490. And some of you have been asking, what do we do with our homework? And at the time of recording, I'm just asking you to hold on to it until we figure out if we're going to have like a drop-off box or what we need to do with that. So please just hold on to it. Let me know if you need anything. Let me know if you guys have prayer requests. I'm praying for you and for your families. And just make sure you're staying safe and staying healthy. Stay busy. Stay busy about your homework. Don't let it fall behind. And hopefully I'll see you guys soon. And I love you all, and I'll see you later.